The following podcast has been rated PGN. Parental guidance is neglected.
Boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat.
I am your father.
Father, if you can hear me, I failed.
Don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I'm here with my dad.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I've abandoned my boy!
Hey, everybody, welcome back to PGN Podcast. I say welcome back because I just assume that you're all returning listeners. We don't want new listeners. You're not welcome here. All right.
You're a niche corner of the internet, and if you have found this, then you are actually the lucky ones.
Yeah, you need you need a password to get here. This is Eyes Wide Shut. If you don't know the safe word...
Fidelio.
Hey, I'm Regan Burns. This is my son, Jackson Burns. He's down in his campus right now, even though it's summer break, working on projects with his friends. This is the Parental Guidance is Neglected podcast. That's two generations, Gen X, Gen Z. No, Gen X and Gen Z, yes.
Yeah, you got it.
I know. I always forget what I am. I always want to make you a millennial, and I know you hate that I do that.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Yeah, two generations, talking movies. We got a lot to cover today. We're going to have reviews of the movies Longlegs, the new horror film from Osgood Perkins. We both saw Twisters. I've got an advanced preview of the movie Kneecap, which is a little Irish film coming out, plus a whole bunch of other reviews and a couple throwback classics. And, of course, we will also be doing, as we did last week, our Love It Like I Love It challenge, where we forced each other to watch a movie. We're going to check in on that. And Jackson's already making faces. I might have gone a little bit...
No, I'm making faces because it reminds me that My Love It Like I... Not to spoil too much, but My Love It Like I Do pick was a movie called Camera Buff. Yeah. And you watched it with my mom.
Yes, I
and
did.
She actually lied to me and told me that she watched the whole thing, when in reality it turns out she actually fell asleep for the climax of the movie.
She fell asleep.
So yeah, I just think that's funny.
But that's
she's cute. She felt really bad.
This is what happens. Like, people fall asleep during a movie, and then afterwards they're like, "Oh, well, I can rewind it and you can watch that again." And what do they inevitably always say? No, just tell me what happened. What did I miss?
Yeah, just tell me what I miss.
Yeah, and you're like, it's not the same as watching the movie. If I just told you everything you missed, you don't have to watch the movie. I just go, okay.
I just explain the movie to you, yeah.
Yeah, so, but people, every time I offer to, she falls asleep during stuff all the time. And if I offer to rewind it, she's like, no, just fill me in on where we're at. And I'm like, I don't want to do an essay on what happened while you started snoring.
Right.
Right,
just go back and watch it yourself.
That happens. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm down here. I'm working hard. A lot of pre-production things happening in my world as we speak.
Yeah.
I was about to say this before the podcast started to you privately, but it's been a big movie birthday week this week. I feel like every time I open up Twitter, it's like, happy birthday to so and so. It was Paul Schrader's birthday yesterday. Fan of the show, Paul Schrader.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Huge.
Yeah,
he calls in often. Actually, I was always checking in here.
We should do call. We got to start doing call-ins.
We should start doing Collins. And of course, as of recording this, the day we're recording this, it is the great Philip Seymour Hoffman's be the great Philip Seymour Hoffman's birthday. Probably the best actor to ever do it.
Imagine what he would have done. He's been gone like what, maybe 8-9 years now, I feel like, or
maybe even 10. It's been a while.
Yeah. The body of work. I don't think I ever saw Philip Seymour Hoffman in a well, I don't know if I saw him I could have seen him in a bad movie, but I certainly never saw him being bad in a movie. In fact, he's in the original Twister.
Which I actually haven't seen. So I'll be interested to see how you think about Twisters, having seen the original.
Well, let me ask you this, Jackson. You've seen Twisters, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna give you a clue.
I've seen Twister.
You've kind of seen Twister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, happy birthday to those two very talented individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
I agree with you completely. By the way, never seen a bad performance from him.
Yeah, I'm sure someone's going to send one to us now and put it on our Instagram. And by the way, if you're not following us on Instagram, please follow us at the PGN Podcast. Again, Parental Guidance is Neglected
Nice, good plug.
Podcast. Letterbox. That's where you're going to see all the reviews of our films. I usually write up something a little bit different for films, so you're getting a totally different perspective and sometimes some different thoughts that both of us have that you may not hear on the podcast. I tend not to put my movie reviews up until after the podcast is up, just because I like to surprise Jackson with how much I hated movies he loved. And, of course, follow us on Instagram and my son Jackson on X as well. Jackson's at Jackson. He's not on X anymore. I can see the mouth.
No, I am. I am. So unfortunately, I am. As disappointing as that is, I was just gonna say that I also have a little something to plug. I'm working on a short film that's gonna be doing some promo stuff soon. So if you want to stay updated on what I'm shooting in the coming months, check out. Jesus Christ. I think it's called Hands
It's
Short.
called Jesus
I think that's
Christ?
The Instagram.
Oh.
It's not.
You're making those kind of movies now.
On Instagram.
Right.
Hands Short. There's going to be some promo happening there that I will be a part of. So yeah.
Nice. You can follow most of my son's shenanigans on Instagram and X at Jackson N. Burns. And he's also got his own YouTube page that he puts a lot of his own stuff up on and archives of things he's worked on in the past. And then you got me over at Regan.Burns on Instagram, where you can see pictures of my daughter and my son and me running around mountains.
And I was gonna say lots of racing, which you just did. You just climbed a mountain this weekend, by the way. Not to get sidetracked.
Yeah, I did a little 10K. I'm still fighting that plantar fasciitis in my foot. It seems like right around mile 4 or 5 now on any run is when it starts to kick in, which should be real interesting since I'm doing a 50-plus mile adventure race in about 5 weeks.
You just can't stay away, can you?
Yeah. Just like Pacino in your favorite Godfather movie. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me
It's
back
just like Pacino in Godfather Part 3.
Are you going to go back and at least watch and finish Godfather Part 3 to say that you have seen it?
I think that there is one situation where I do, and it is if I decide to have kids someday and I have to show them The Godfathers, maybe I will sit through Part 3 just so I can get it out of the way and not.
So you won't torture yourself, but you would torture your children by watching them watch Part 3. By the way,
it's so bad.
I don't think Part 3 is that bad a movie.
Okay, how long has it been since you've seen it?
A long time. I mean, I saw it in the theater, and that was it.
I think that if you rewatched it without the nostalgia goggles and the theater hype, I think that it might not hold up as much as you think. It's like actually surprisingly 90s for a movie.
Okay.
So yeah.
Are you pumped for Coppola's movie? I've seen the big screening of Metropolis. Is that it? Metropolis?
Yeah, Metropolis. I'm beyond excited for it, and I am fully prepared. I'm fully prepared to be disappointed, but I'm hopeful.
Okay. Any good new trailer? Was there any trailers? Let me look back here. Was there some? We talked about Nosferatu.
I really want to see. I was pretty upset because I know that DD is opening limited this weekend, and it's not really showing anywhere that I can see it. But I did really want to see that. Oh, that new Sebastian Stan movie.
About
pretty
Trump?
much checks all of my boxes. Not that one. The one where he, it's like the guy who has the deformed face, who undergoes a surgery to get it taken off. I sent you the trailer. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
A Different Man. Is that what it's called?
Different. I'm looking right now. Yeah, different.
I mean, here's the thing. It looks very absurd. It's shot on 16mm film. They have LCD sound system playing in the trailer. I am fully. All of my money is getting put into the stock of that movie. I could not be more excited for that.
Cuckoo, I know you're still real into.
I'm keeping my hopes. I'm trying to damper my hopes on that one a bit because it's not getting the best reviews.
Oh.
But I'm still excited to see it. Love Hunter Schafer. I have to look back at my list. The trailers for Twister were a little bit disappointing. I remember that.
Did you know? I just saw that they are making a TV show on Peacock that is a reimagining of John Woo's movie, The Killer.
Huh.
Yeah. So now you have to watch it.
Why do they do that?
I don't
all the time.
I don't know, but Peacock. I just seen this on the
All right.
trailers. John Woo.
They're doing the same thing with they're doing a City of God TV show, I think,
What?
on Max.
City of
Yeah.
God. That's a
Which
strange...
apparently I didn't know this actually had a sequel, either movie or TV show called City of Men come out. I think a little bit after it. But I think they're just kind of pretending like that doesn't exist and are just going full steam ahead into it looks like the same cast. I mean, a very phenomenal film. Although I really don't know what they're going to do with it. Yeah, I'm looking at the list right now. I'm not excited for Wicked. Both Wicked and Deadpool and Wolverine, I think, have been
overhyped.
Not overhyped. They've been taken over by this new trend in cinematography where we suck all the color out of the movie, and I don't know why. It's really strange to me that they're making like a non-colorful Wicked.
It's not. What are they?
I don't know.
They're it's saturated, or I don't know.
They just they just desaturated the whole thing and made it look very. It doesn't. I mean, if you look at the side by sides from like Wicked versus the
Barbie.
original, obviously Wizard of Oz, or even Barbie, I guess. But I mean, like the Wizard of Oz, it's like looking at a rainbow and like a great and like a. I don't know, like a paint tests for a home.
I will tell you this: I've seen Wicked on stage. Did you see Wicked? Did we take you to see Wicked, Little?
Yeah, we all saw it together as a family.
It's got a lot of black and green in it. There's a lot of Emerald City green. So I don't know. I don't remember it being the most rose-colored show, but
yeah,
maybe.
but I mean, at least the green was green. Like the green was green.
Yeah.
And then here the green's like it's lime.
It's off green.
It's lime. And
Go
Deadpool
ahead.
and Wolverine, I just couldn't be. It's the same. I mean, I don't mean to get too technical, but they're it's just not.
Did you like the first two Deadpool movies?
I never saw the second one. I thought I think the first one was good. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so I'm not the most in depth on it.
Are you going to see the second one before you see Wolverine?
Probably not.
At least you're honest about it.
Probably not.
You're going to be so behind on the story, though, Jackson. You're not going to understand anything that goes on.
Catch up a bit. I'm just looking at the list of trailers right now. He got me. I'm a little bit excited for Trap. I hate to be that guy.
I know.
But
I kind of am too.
He kind of pulled me in. He's been doing this thing on Twitter where every week he'll just put up like a fun fact about the shooting of it.
Yep.
And it's really cool. He did a lot of cool things where he's like, "Oh, I never wanted the audience to be closer to the stage than the characters, and I wanted to shoot it on film because of this, and this is why I saw Oppenheimer and I immediately wanted to have a dinner with I'm forgetting who the main character, the lead is, and
Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett.
He's kind of got me. He's kind of got me a little bit.
I know.
Yeah, he sucked me in. Damn it.
It's by the way, it's not a film. It's an experience.
Oh, is that how they're selling it?
Yes. If you look at the trailer, it says an M. Night Shyamalan experience.
Is that the new thing? Is that kind of like his version of like the Spike Lee joint, where it's like it's not a movie, it's like it's a new thing?
I have a feeling it might be something like that. Well, first off, if you're going to do that, you should have been doing that for your last 12 movies. I don't know if you can start that once you've already made a boatload of movies.
Yeah, that's very strange. All right, listen, he's got me, so we'll see how it goes.
I'm still hopeful for Alien Romulus. I'm so hungry for a really good Alien movie. There's been so many bad ones. I hated the Prometheus and that whole reboot story, even though Fassbender's great in them. More to come on him later, but yeah, I think that one, and I think the Jesse Eisenberg one. I keep seeing trailers, and I love Rory Culkin, and that's a real pain. It looks a little Woody Allen-ish, but two guys.
It does, but I'm there for it.
I'm there. I'm on, so I'm kind of looking forward to that one. The reason we have seen so many trailers is because we actually have been going to a lot of movies. We're going to talk about the big one, Twisters. That's the #1 movie this weekend, and it will be #1 for exactly 5 more days. until Deadpool Wolverine opens up the floodgates. But before we get to that a little bit later, here's one from last week that we're going to have to be careful here because we're doing this a week after, but we don't want to do spoilers. This is the horror movie Longlegs that some of you have probably already seen and want to hear what our thoughts are on the, shall we call it, twist this movie takes. We will tread that lightly for those who haven't seen it. This is written and directed by Osgood Perkins. If you haven't heard or didn't know already, Osgood Perkins is the son of Anthony Perkins, the actor who played Psycho and Alfred Hitchcock. Hint, hint, we have a Hitchcock review coming up later. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Nicolas Cage plays the serial killer Longlegs in this movie. Maika Monroe, I think I said her name correct.
I think it's Micah. Is it Micah?
Maika, I don't know. Micah.
I think it's Micah Monroe.
Of course, the A is silent. There's always got to be some silent letter in there we don't pronounce. She's Agent Lee Harker, playing the Clarice Starling of this kind of Silence of the Lambs story of a female agent chasing down the killer. Alicia Witt is her mother, who will play a big part in the film in the latter part. And Blair Underwood, who most people will recognize from the TV show L.A. Law, makes a very nice return to acting. I haven't seen him in anything in a while as kind of the FBI director, very much like Silence of the Lambs had Glenn as the FBI director. I mentioned Silence of the Lambs a lot. This movie has been compared to this as well as Zodiac. It is very much a throwback thriller to the 80s. I'm going to say it's a thriller too. This is not a horror film. I think people who are going in expecting what we have been fed as a horror movie lately might be a little bit disappointed. And Nicolas Cage may be, I'm going to talk to Jackson about this more, the only actor on this planet who could have done this role and gotten away with the way him and the director chose to portray him. I enjoyed Longlegs. There are some things about it I liked, and there are some things I really did not like. But where I land will come up shortly. First off, Jackson, what are your thoughts on Longlegs? Did it scare you?
It did scare me. I think that, me and you are very similar when it comes to horror movies, and I agree this isn't a horror movie, but it definitely has horror elements and scary moments in it. Is that I am always more scared by people, like what people can do to people. That's where my scare comes from.
Yes.
I don't like that. The ghost kind of demonic stuff does not really get to me very much.
We're walking on thin ice here. I don't want to spoil anything, but I feel like
in general. I'm just saying it in a general sense.
I feel like we can say that this does take a bit of a supernatural twist.
It does, and so there's a lot of moments in here that really scared me. There's a really, I think one of the biggest things I can say about this movie is that I loved the cinematography. Mm-hmm. It had a lot of interesting ways of framing. Like they give a lot of depth behind the characters. That way you're kind of always like, oh my God, is something going to happen behind her? Like I spent most of the movie looking around what was happening in focus, just because I was so worried that something was going to pop up behind one of the characters, especially there's a sequence where she's kind of walking through her house that's, I think, really got to me. This movie has a brilliant opening, I think, too. A really good opening scene that immediately sets the tone. You're introduced to you're introduced to the character of Longlegs, played by Nicolas Cage. And he is so good. I loved him in this role. I thought he was perfect for the part. He scared the hell out of me. And
what did you think of the prosthetics and the makeup?
I thought it was super interesting. I mean, I've been reading. Actually, I probably should. I can't. I don't know how much I can say, but I was reading some information on why they made those choices. And maybe I'll talk to you about it off podcast because it kind of does spoil a little bit of the stuff. But right. It's essentially he's trying to make himself seem beautiful for a higher power. And so I like that backstory a lot, and I like that they didn't necessarily spell out why he was like that, but it just made him feel so unpredictable. I loved his movement. I thought that he had a really good handle on the movement of the character that really added to the ambience. Yeah. This movie has such a good first two acts.
Yeah.
Oh man, and then it just kind of drops the ball.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into spoiler territory, so I'm really trying not to. But there's during the final climax of the film, really the final scene of the film, I guess. So you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all of the scare for me has gone away.
Yeah.
And I feel like Micah Monroe's character just isn't acting the way that her character has for the rest of the movie. Like, to me, in the logic of the movie, the way it was described to me, there was a lot that she could have done in that last scene that I feel like would have prevented the outcome that eventually gets played out. And it felt like the only moment in the movie where someone makes a stupid decision that shouldn't be, and it just kind of, it really bogged the movie down for me. Again, I liked a lot of this movie.
I actually liked Micah,
and I overall I'd probably give it a positive score, but it didn't stick the landing for me.
Yeah, I agree. I actually liked Micah Monroe, I think, a little bit better than you. I thought she almost brought what I feel, I could be wrong, but was almost like a bit of an autistic quality to her character.
Definitely. Like I liked her as the actress. I think that the character, like in the last scene, I think where I was like, I don't know if she would, like, it was a writing issue. It wasn't necessarily a performance problem.
Yeah. This movie was well on its way to a much higher score for me until the big twist and the reveal. There is a character that exits the movie at some point, and I missed that character. I was like, they're gone. When something has kind of gotten into you and you're kind of gripped with it, which I was, and then it goes in a direction that you just can't go on the ride with, it's hard not to lose points. Do you think this is a award-worthy role for Cage? Is this something that's going to be remembered? I
don't think so.
I have to be honest. It's a supporting role. I mean,
absolutely it is.
It's
it's a lot of supporting.
Yeah, is this something the Academy would recognize? I'm just asking you.
I don't think so. They tend to really not be kind to horror movies. I mean, really at all. I mean, with very, very few exceptions. But I agree with you. I think without his performance, this movie falls apart. It really is riding on his interpretation of the character.
I think best.
I also think that the twist, it was a little bit see-through. I felt there's a moment where, again, I'm not trying to spoil out, but where there's like a door that's locked.
Yeah.
And I think immediately I was like, well, I know what's down. I know what's back there.
Yeah,
I know what's happening there.
Yeah, the twist, while it's pretty abrupt, is you can see it coming a mile away.
Yeah.
The moment that Nick Cage has in the car, the outburst in the car, that was the moment that I think everyone in our theater kind of laughed, but it was an uncomfortable laughter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know how your crowd reacted, but it was kind of like, oh my God, this is... This guy is This guy's
unhinged.
really. But it was such a classic. Like, if they put a reel together at the end of Nicolas Cage's career, if that 10 seconds, 15 seconds is not on the reel, then they've done him a real disservice.
Yeah.
Because that is the one time where I could just see Nick Cage going, I want to do this thing, man.
Yeah.
I just got to do this thing.
But 100%. And it's so over the top, but I loved it. I loved every second of it. And it was exactly that, where you're kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Like, you know, that kind of nervous laughter. So I don't know. I think that my take back from this is Nicolas Cage is still an incredible actor. Really is one of the best, I think, still doing it. And I'm sold on Osgood Perkins as a director. I just think that he needs a little more time, and he's already got a new movie coming out next year that's already been greenlit called The Monkey.
Is it a horror film or suspense or thriller?
He says that it's a little less horror. It's not as scary, and it's a little more comedic and lighthearted.
Huh.
But I think it's based off a Stephen King novel. Let me confirm that.
Is
right
it
now.
off of Monkey Shines? There was a Stephen King novel called Monkey Shines, I believe. So that might be what it's based on.
What am I?
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, while you're looking that up, I'm going to give Longlegs a lot of credit for trying to think outside of the bubble. I mean, he made a creative choice to take it from a traditional serial killer movie to something much different. Sure. And that's taking a chance, even though it didn't work for me. So I give him credit for that. Thank God Nick Cage was in this. That helps move it up a bit. I'm giving thumbs up. Is that what I'm giving you, Jackson?
Yeah, that's good timing.
Good timing. Longlegs for me gets a B-. So,
and I'm about as close as I can get to you with my rating scale at a 6. So yeah,
6. Yeah. Could have been, should have been so much more.
Could have been an 8.
Still worth seeing though. Still, I think.
Agreed.
Worth seeing. Did you
it
get
did well. It was Neon's highest grossing movie, I think, ever.
One of the best campaigns in several
absolutely.
years for a movie. Really, really built up the hype on it in a great way.
Yeah, most definitely.
Very quickly, since we're talking about graphic and horror and in your face, I saw a movie called Kill 2 weeks ago that I meant to mention on the last podcast. This is an Indian action film from director Nikal Nagesh Bhatt. I hope I'm saying that correct. It is about a military commando named Amrit. Who is in India. This is an Indian film whose secret love has been bequeathed to another. And after crashing her engagement party, he grabs a ticket on a train to her wedding to, I guess, wait. I don't know why he's waiting until the last minute to make this happen, but you don't have a movie if you don't put people on a train.
Sure.
Unfortunately, though, her family happens to be on a train filled with a lot, and I do mean a ton of bad guys who are there to rob the train. Turns out the young lady's father is also one of the richest men in the country, and when identities are soon let out, the plot changes considerably as the criminals realize kidnapping might be the best way to go instead of stealing purses and jewelry. This is a movie that is most 100% inspired by the likes of John Wick. There is a lot of fight choreography in this. It is amazing. You can tell that a ton of time was put into it, and I do like the fact that the entire thing takes place in such a compact environment on a train. That makes it very interesting. The logistics of who's in which car and how do you get to that car and climbing over gets a little bogged down at times.
It's been a big few years for trains because we had Bullet Train, we had Mission Impossible, had that big train sequence. Yeah. This.
And by the way, does anybody take trains? I mean, do you know anybody who's taking trains?
I think it's a very overseas thing. Like I think that's why Bullet Train has to take place in Japan because we just don't have that. We just don't have that here. Besides, I guess the subway in New York, but.
Well, they're good. We're going to have it in America because this movie has already been picked up and purchased for a remake in America.
Oh, wow. Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, the same studio that did John Wick has already acquired this, and an American remake is in the works. Sure. And I have to be honest with you, I hope they do a good job with it because this is going to be a tough one to one up. I really, really liked Kill. I will put a preface on this, though, that this is, without a doubt, the most violent and graphically violent film I think I've ever seen. What this film does is if you go to watch Kill, the first 45 minutes of it feel like almost a romantic comedy with some light action. And something happens at about the 45-minute mark that is so brilliant and turns this film on its head. It's one of the best twists that I have ever seen in a film.
I gotta see this.
It changes tone, it changes pitch, it changes direction, and at 45 minutes, you go, oh, wait a minute. This is not what I thought it was going to be. And it goes bonkers, and I do mean bonkers. I really, really enjoyed Kill. I think it's shot well. I'm not going to say it's the best acting in the world, but that's not really what you're going to an action movie like this. I think that Lakasha, that's his one name. This is his first film. He's the leading man who does all the killing. And trust me, he makes John Wick look like a preschool as far as the killing count goes here.
Yeah.
Not that I kill people in preschool, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what's going to... I mean, listen, everything that's come out of India that seems to have had any traction in the last 10 years has either been a Bollywood musical or Slumdog Millionaire, which even had a Bollywood number in it. There is no Bollywood number in this, but there is plenty of very neat choreography to keep you entertained. Kill gets a B from me. I think it's... Sure. I think it's worth you seeing, Jackson.
You had me sold at the whole 45-minute thing. That sounds really cool. It's been a good year for Indian action, I guess, because we had Monkey Man earlier this year that I think me and you both enjoyed as well.
Yeah, that movie I really felt sad. We both had a few problems with it. We thought it might have been over-directed a bit, but I'm sad that it didn't do better than it did. It was a bomb for Dev Patel.
I hope that he gets another chance to direct, because I think that he's got a lot to say. A lot to do.
I will tell you this: Kill makes Monkey Man look like a preschool. Again, don't know what that analogy means, but I'm going to use it twice in the same podcast just because it's completely wrong.
I guess I got to watch it and find out.
Yeah.
All right, Kill. Yeah, I'm sold.
Still coming up, we're going to talk about Twisters. That's a little teaser right there. Also, I have a preview review of a new movie called Kneecap that I think is going to be right up Jackson's alley. Whether I liked it or not, we'll find out. Sure. Also, I did see a movie earlier today called National Anthem that I want to make sure to speak on as wit of. There's a tongue tie right there for you. Don't worry, Jackson will. Instead of editing that out in post, he'll probably somehow make it even
I'm going
to
make it louder, distort it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
But right now, we're going to go to my son Jackson's Arthouse Pretentious Corner, and we're going to start it. I'm going to dictate how it's going to go as we go into it.
Wow.
Since he and I saw one of his movies this week together.
We did.
We went to Hollywood to see a film together, and I'm going to ask Jackson to start off with that one. Jackson, what did we go see together in Hollywood?
Yeah, so recently there's been a big kind of 70mm screening push happening in LA because the American Cinematheque Theaters, which is made up of Los Feliz 3, the Arrow, and the Egyptian Theater in LA, have been doing their 70mm annual festival, but there's also been some 70mm screenings happening elsewhere at the American Academy Museum. But me and him went down to watch the classic. Yeah, me and this guy to see the classic Hitchcock film Vertigo in beautiful 70mm, which is the best way to see it. Frankly, if you're gonna see it, that's the way to do it. Yeah, this is my fourth Hitchcock film.
So what are the three? What are the three you've seen previously?
Jeez, the freaking thing keeps happening. I've seen Rear Window. Mm-hmm. I have seen Psycho, and I have seen parts of Rebecca. I kind of fell asleep during the screening of it when we were doing my film history class.
You're one of those. Don't worry, I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened when you fell asleep. I'll recap it for you.
But I wasn't loving what I was seeing, to be honest. And then now Vertigo. I love Rear Window, although it has been a long time since I've seen it. I enjoyed Psycho quite a bit. I think that it more in the terms of its influence, but it still holds up. Surprisingly, like it's still got some really tense moments and a brilliant ending. Again, Rebecca, I kind of fell asleep for, but it was time for the next one, the big one, Vertigo, the one that everyone's always talking about.
Yeah, Vertigo. Not to interrupt you, but Vertigo, for some reason, it's always in the top 3 or 4 of his films, and a lot of people, like I even know AFI, I think has it. I know on the AFI list, it is the highest ranked Hitchcock movie, and I also believe it's in the top 3. Which, to be honest with you, now I will preface this by saying this was not my first time seeing Vertigo. I saw this many, many years ago. So
sure.
I was, just on a side note, very surprised to see just how packed the theater was on a Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. A lot of film people really wanted to come see this movie in 70mm. Also, I will say that I pretty much land with the movie the same way I did when I saw it years and years ago. Now, growing up, I saw pretty much most of the Hitchcock movies, some of which stuck with me. Rear Window will always be in my top 10 films of all time. I absolutely love it. It's much fantastic. Like you, I enjoy Psycho. It's a fun movie. It's one of those ones you watch, you go, I don't know why this scared people so badly back then, but it did. But Anthony Perkins is so much fun to watch in it. I do enjoy North by Northwest. I think that's a good one. And then some of his smaller ones, Dial M for Murder. I enjoy Rope, that's famous one-off movie. Strangers on a Train. There's some out there that I enjoy. I did not like The Birds. I never quite understood why that movie was a hit, and it was back in its time.
Bunch of birds.
But Vertigo is always, at least for me back then, always fell kind of right there in the middle. It didn't resonate. Did it resonate with you, Jackson?
Here's the thing about Vertigo. So I went into the screening knowing pretty much nothing about the plot of this movie, like absolutely nothing. But I did know I had seen the sequences, or at least pictures of the sequences that it's very famous for, where there's those very stylized dream sequences where it's kind of changing colors. Right. I'd seen the very famous scene where she walks out of the bathroom and she's kind of translucent, and the green lighting's playing on her, and it's like, oh, is she a ghost or is she real? Right. And so I knew those were to come. And that made me excited because I was like, okay, they're gonna do some really interesting forum stuff with this movie.
Right.
That's kind of it as far as those moments go. Vertigo to me is an interesting timepiece. I don't know if it was that entertaining to me, and I think that a lot of that comes from the performances. I actually really like Jimmy Stewart in this quite a bit. And you said something before the screening that I think was really interesting, where you were like, Jimmy Stewart kind of rides that line of like the old timey transatlantic type dialogue, but he kind of makes it work because it's more goofy and he kind of bakes it into his character. Yes. Kim Novak drove me nuts during this movie. That performance did not age well. It's it's that kind of performance where it's like she's not really doing much with her face. And so it's all in the kind of the way she says things, and it's always like, John, oh John, please, I love you till the day I die, and if I go, then please. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Why are there so many 20-year-old blonde women falling for 40-year-old Jimmy Stewart? Yeah. He's like this graying, wrinkled old man. Well, and these dames are like, oh, I just fell in love with the moment I met you, and I'm like, oh my god.
One of the criticisms was when Vertigo came out, Jimmy Stewart was in the latter part of his career, and a lot of people did say he was too old to play this character. A lot of people also said they didn't buy him as a police officer. He never really played cops before. He was always much more of an everyman, and they're like, we didn't really seem like a very good police officer in the first place. It's funny too when you watch a movie like this, and I actually, if I had to pick a performance of the film that I actually like Midge. I like Barbara Bel Geddes.
She was great. I wanted more from her. Yeah. She was a super fun character.
I know.
I bought it immediately.
The whole movie, you're like, why won't he just fall back in love with her? Also, very weird that apparently it's an ex-girlfriend whose apartment he can just walk in on any time. Right? He doesn't even knock.
And she's always wearing the same outfit. Yeah. And is always at the same easel.
I'm like, who is this woman whose home you just walk into and help yourself to a drink? I mean, they're not a couple in any way.
Yeah, super strange relationship there. And so, it's just... And here's the thing, too, that kept getting me, is that he's kind of really bad at being a PI. He's kind of horrible at his job. Yeah. And, I mean, spoiler alert, but I mean, this movie came out in the 50s, if you don't know at this point, whatever. Right. I mean, she's in on it, so, she knows that she's being followed.
Right.
But he doesn't know that, and I'm like, dude, you are so close to this woman at all points.
Yeah. Like, when she comes to the bridge to supposedly commit suicide, it's like, there's 2 cars in the parking lot. He just pulled in behind her, and he's standing there watching her. I'm like, but I guess she's supposed to be hypnotized, or I didn't see the twist coming. I wouldn't have guessed that. Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, I didn't see the twist coming. So the twist held up, and I thought that the ending was it took a risk, and I think it paid off. Mm-hmm. And so I enjoyed the ending, although I think that it did drag on a bit. I think there was a lot that could have been cut out.
Yeah.
So very mixed on Vertigo. It does not hold a candle to Rear Window. Still, I think that's still going to be. That's just a masterpiece, and it was doesn't overshadow that. But yeah, that's about my take on that.
What's so great about Rear Window is there's no score. The score is the sounds of the entire courtyard. and it's so
Yeah.
suspenseful without da-da-da-da. Although the score of Vertigo is fantastic. But
it is great, yeah.
But Rear Window, you're like, it doesn't need it. It's just the sounds of
and
the neighbors.
And it's so brilliant because you are only able to see what he sees, so you're
Yes.
equally as stuck in that stuffy apartment in a wheelchair with him. Oh my God, that when that guy opens that door and he has nowhere to go. Jeez, oh my God, I remember seeing that for the first time and I was like,
I love Rear Window.
what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do here? Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Vertigo, not so much.
I know. It's a lot of Jimmy Stewart driving in front of a green screen in a car. It's a lot of driving.
Yeah, it is.
I land the same place I did with Vertigo all those many years ago when I saw it. It's a C- for me on Vertigo.
I'm gonna go with a 5. We're really agreeable today. I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm meeting you right there. Yeah.
I respect it. I see why it was groundbreaking at the time. I don't think
funny story, actually. I found out that a musician that I really love was actually in the screening with us, so that's really interesting.
Who was that?
No one that you'd know. He's part of a hip-hop group called Injury Reserve, but I follow him on Letterboxd, and he posted that he had seen it the same day as us, and I was like, that can't be a coincidence. He probably was there.
Wow. Yeah, I would think so. All right, well, that's the kickoff Jackson's Pretentious Art House Corner. Besides the big films, Jackson, what did you curl up with this week over in that corner of yours?
It's been a big older cinema week for me because just a few days ago, me and my boss actually sat down to watch the classic 60s film Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Based off of the play.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another movie that I went in knowing pretty much nothing about. I had seen small clips here and there, but I didn't really know what was what the bit was with the movie.
Alcohol.
And yeah, pretty much. Oh my God, they drink so much in this movie, and it's just bourbon, and it's just straight bourbon.
Yep.
And it's God, what is going on?
I got news for you. Taylor and Burton drank a lot in real life too.
I bet. I mean, they famously had an affair on this set, I believe.
They got married twice in real life. They got married, divorced, and then they got married later again. They were on again, off again, their whole entire lives.
This is actually my first and only Mike Nichols film. I've never seen his equally as famous The Graduate.
You haven't seen The Graduate?
I haven't seen The Graduate. It's one of those big ones that I just never got to.
How do they let you through film school? Oh, okay.
I've seen the scene. I've seen the scene that everyone always talks about. They played that, but they never showed the full thing. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? I actually really enjoyed this. I know that you are not as big of a fan of this.
No.
And here's my thing. It's very theatrical, and obviously it makes sense. It's based off of a play. Very theatrical. But it kind of works. The movie kind of it formulates this world around itself. And because with the ending, I mean, these two characters really are putting on a performance, both for each other, for themselves, and for their unfortunate party guests. Brilliant supporting cast, by the way, from George Segal and Sandy Dennis, who I thought were just as good as the two stars here. I just loved the characters so much. I loved the way that they hated and loved each other. I loved the way that I loved how clever and quick they were. It was so many lines where they'd say it, and I'd sit there for a second, and then I'd laugh like a second after because it took a second for me to process. Mm-hmm. It's a brilliant script, and I totally understand that this can absolutely not be someone's cup of tea because it is very unrealistic the way that they're talking. The dialogue is definitely dated, but there's something about it that just makes it work. As opposed to Vertigo, I think. There's just something in here that feels a little more modern and feels a little more crafted. And, I just really enjoyed it. I mean, it's okay.
I'm in the minority.
It's also just hilarious. Like, there were so many funny moments. I mean, Richard Burton had me really, really laughing here. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I can very much see how this is not everyone's thing, but I can also see that this is a brilliant, well put together piece and a masterclass on shooting in one location as well.
Yes, it's all in the home. Yeah.
Yep.
Listen, I'm in the minority. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is a movie that you will often see sneaking into people's top 100 lists when it comes to film. I am in no way going to diminish the talents of Mike Nichols or especially Elizabeth Taylor or Richard Burton. They were all masters at their crafts. The film just, maybe I saw it at too young of an age. Maybe as an adult now, I would appreciate the relationships and obviously the fights that everyone there is having with the drugs and the emotions that they're feeling and watching them be uncovered. This
is my first movie for both of them as well. I've never seen a Richard Burton or Elizabeth Taylor movie before this.
Okay.
I initially gave this an 8. I'm actually going to lower it to a 7 because I don't know if it stuck with me as much as I thought it would after my initial watch. But I still enjoyed it quite a bit.
That's still a very good score.
Absolutely. And then the big one. I had the succinct pleasure of being able to see for the first time Lawrence of Arabia on 70 millimeters film in a theater. Have you seen Lawrence of Arabia?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, but
Lawrence of Arabia.
I saw it on a DVD on a TV when I was very young.
Yeah. Lawrence of Arabia is interesting. I saw Lawrence of Arabia. It was actually the second movie I had seen this day. Before seeing Lawrence of Arabia, I saw a different film also on 70 millimeter, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I once again went into this movie knowing nothing about it. I had kind of thought that it was going to be like a sort of like white savior, big action sequence kind of like oh my God, what's that?
Spartacus or Ben-Hur?
Kind of like a Ben-Hur.
Yes.
Lawrence of Arabia is not that at all. Lawrence of Arabia is not only is it not at all like a white savior film, but it is actually extremely progressive, at least in its story. I mean, Alex Guinness does do brown face, but we're not going to talk about that. There's a quote I want to read it real quick. This is Roger Ebert wrote this about the film itself and watching it in theaters because I think this is important. As for Lawrence, after its glorious re-release in 70mm in 1989, it is returned again to video, where it crouches inside its box like a tall man in a low room. You can view it on video and get an idea of its story and a hint of its majesty. But to get that feeling of Lean's masterpiece, you need to somehow, somewhere, see it in 70mm on the big screen. This experience is on the short list of things that must be done during the lifetime of every film lover. And I absolutely agree. I loved this movie.
Okay.
I mean, so here's the thing. I was not aware that there's a very famous moment in this movie where he blows out a match. Apparently, everyone just knows about this shot where he blows out the match. Mm-hmm. I had no idea that was going to happen, and I'm literally getting chills thinking about it because I'm sitting in this theater. Yeah. It's this beautiful, colorful print, and this is one of the first 15 minutes of the movie. We're in Cairo with Lawrence, and we're not in the desert yet, and it's kind of been all bureaucracy so far. Yep. And there's this moment where he strikes up a match, and the guy's like, "You're going to Arabia," and he goes, "Well, I think it's going to be fun." And he blows out the match, and we cut to the desert, and the sun is rising, and I literally in the theater went. I put my hand over my mouth like I had just seen something insane. It was so good. I've been thinking about this movie since I saw it. It's basically, for people who don't know, it's basically just the same plot as Dune. Like if you put Dune Part 1 and Part 2 together, it's pretty much the same thing. And it's so good. There was so much technical brilliance here. So many moments. There's a scene where it's like oh my God, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because I could totally nerd out.
Please forgive my son for going complete full geekdom to 11 on this one.
It was so good. I felt so like me and my friend left the theater and we just kept talking about how lucky and privileged we were to be able to see this on 70mm for the first time. And funny enough, there's an intermission for this film.
Yes,
and they also they screened it like the original. So before the first half and before the second half, they played the 4-minute overture of music that's supposed to play before you screen it.
Yep.
But at the intermission, there was an older couple behind us, and they were like they got our attention. They're like, "Hey, like we just wanted to say like." Ask how you were thinking about the movie, and we're like, "Oh, like we're enjoying it so far. We're really curious to see where this is going." And they were like, "Oh, that's so great." They were like, "We actually saw this when it first came out, and so we've really been enjoying watching your reaction to the film."
Isn't that
and
sweet?
I was like, "Oh, that's so special." I had a phenomenal time. I'm going to cut it short because I really could talk your ear off about this movie for forever.
I'm sure you will
Lawrence of
next time I
Arabia
see
is going
you.
to get is going to get a 9.
Doesn't even get the 10. Doesn't get the 10
it
though.
doesn't get the 10.
Wow.
But it's going to get the 9. This was quite the experience. Yeah.
I would have loved it if at intermission when that couple had said, "We've just been enjoying the first half, watching your reaction." If then in the second half on purpose you just started going like, "This is bullshit. That wouldn't happen."
Well, what the hell? What the hell?
Start talking to the screen.
Enough with this Lawrence guy. Where's the action?
So what kept it from a 10? Boy, I thought we were getting a 10.
10s I'm really picky about. 10s I reserve for the movies that fit alter me as a person.
Alter you. I got you. Okay.
And so it wasn't that, but man, if you're watching this and you ever have the chance of seeing this, please.
I could be wrong, but to any of our listeners who are in Los Angeles, I think American Cinematique is screening it at least one, maybe two more times in 70 millimeter.
I'm pretty sure it is. Please go see it.
So
it really is. If you are a lover of film, you have to see this movie on 70. It is truly phenomenal.
Okay.
I'll move on because I'm running hot here. Did I talk about the Turin Horse last week?
No.
Remind me. Okay,
No.
I'll get to that in a second. The movie that I saw before Lawrence of Arabia was actually a documentary. It's a documentary that came out I think in the early 90s, 1992. And it was directed and shot by a cinematographer who
those guys
famously
don't know
shot
shit about movie making.
He famously shot the widely acclaimed documentary Koyaanisqatsi, which I'm not a big fan of, but that's beside the point. The documentary is called Baraka, and its big claim to fame is that I think it was one of the first, if not the first, documentaries to be shot on 65 millimeter film. So we were seeing it in the way it was meant to be seen, in the best possible color and all that, which was such a great treat. It's not like a narrative documentary. It's very open-ended. It's shot over the span of 25 different countries, and so you're kind of all over the place. Where you're in cities, you're with different tribes, you're in the jungle, you're at volcanoes, you're at factories, and so it's very much got the vibe of just a compilation of different parts of the world with this kind of impending doom of consumerism and technology and things like that. Which is very similar to Koyaanisqatsi. And I thought it was good. It was good. It was a beautifully looking film, and I thought it had some good moments and good things to say. I think that it really did dwell at some points. But overall I enjoyed it, and I think that it was a really unique way and interesting way of just being able to see more parts of the world as clear as you can without actually being there.
I'm guessing you're giving it a 6.
I'm gonna give it a 7, actually.
Oh,
I'm gonna give it a 7.
I was close.
Yeah. So Baraka gets a 7. We're seeing if you get the chance. I actually have 2 more to talk about. The first is
you've been busy, young Skywalker.
This is a movie that I saw actually while there was an assassination attempt on the former president, which I think is just funny to say because it's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, this is where I was when this happened.
Yeah, all will remember.
I was on my couch watching Kong Skull Island.
Okay, all right, time out. How did Kong Skull Island end up in the pretentious Arthouse corner here? How did that end up on your list?
My buddy Cole was crashing on the couch, and he was watching it when I came downstairs, and I was like, all right, I'll watch it.
I'll watch it. Is this the one with John Goodman and Loki?
It is.
And okay.
Yes, it is.
I saw it.
Better than I remembered, is what I'll say. It's not. It's kind of King Kong and Godzilla before it got like Crazy Town, and so it's a little more grounded. It's shot by the cinematographer Larry Fong, who I think is one of the best action cinematographers that we have. He shot 300, Super 8. He did The Predator, Now You See Me, Watchmen. I think that he just has a really good eye for action, and it is on full display here. Some really interesting camera stuff going on. But I think what really the only thing that really kept my attention for this movie is that kind of in the same way that, oh my goodness, kind of in the same way that Godzilla is framed around World War II, this movie really tries hard to frame King Kong around Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting choice that worked most of the time. This movie's downfall is definitely its casting. Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson have no chemistry in this movie,
No.
And I think that they actually both don't even work as action heroes. Like they just don't. They don't really have the stuff for that.
I don't think she worked as an action hero for Captain Marvel, much less
I don't know.
chasing him. That's a whole other story.
Yeah. So, but you know what? I kind of had a good time with it. And so Kong Skull Island for me gets a 6.
6. 6.
6.
Kong Skull Island.
I enjoyed it. It had some really cool stuff. All
right.
I'm gonna get through this last one very quickly because no one, including myself, cares about this. This is okay. Let me frame this movie for you.
Okay.
Have you ever heard the story of the Turin horse? This is a real story.
No.
Okay. So as the legend has it, a long time ago, the philosopher Nietzsche was walking through a marketplace in Turin, and as he's walking, he witnesses a then I guess taxi driver who has a horse for his taxi, like a horse and a carriage, and the man is beating the horse, like because the horse is refusing to move. The horse won't move, and the man is beating the horse with a stick, and something inside of that flipped a switch in Nietzsche's head, and I guess he had a nervous breakdown, and he wrapped his arms around the horse and had to be pulled back to his house, where he went nonverbal for 2 days. 2 days later, he muttered the words, "Mother, I am stupid," and never said a word again for the rest of his life. It was like the thing that I think he had schizophrenia, and it kind of just triggered the whole thing, and he went into psychosis for the rest of his life.
Sounds like a great screenplay.
This movie is what happens when the man and the horse get home. So Nietzsche's not involved in the movie, but it's kind of like it starts with a very long shot, mind you, of a man and his horse traveling back to their little hut at the end of town. Okay. I actually really like this for a concept. I think that conceptually there's a lot of interesting things you can do there. I mean, that story alone carries so much subtext. This is probably the most boring movie I've seen in my whole life, Dad. It's 2.5 hours. It is made up of only 30 shots, and kind of the bit is like it's this couple, and as time moves on from that event, they start losing things. Where it's like the horse stops moving, all of their crops die, they lose access to water, eventually they lose their sight, but there's almost no dialogue, and it's just this father and daughter trapped in a room, no one's talking, cooking potatoes and eating potatoes with their hands and seeing if the horse, oh shocker, the horse still isn't moving today. It's so little going on. It's so fucking bleak.
Why would you do this to yourself?
Well, someone recommended it because one of me and my director, pal, our thesis is about a chef that loses all of his senses. And some butthead was like, "Oh, well, the Turin horse is about a couple who starts losing their senses. So maybe you should watch that as like a tonal comparison." And we're like, "Oh, great, that's like awesome. Like, let's check that out." Because it's from a semi well-known filmmaker, Bela Tarr, who by the way, his most famous film is called Santantango and is 8 hours long.
Oh my God, Jackson! Am I going to have an intervention with you? Could you please run some of these titles by me first?
This movie gets a 2. It was so bad.
It doesn't get a 1. Okay, so Lawrence of Arabia doesn't get a 10. It gets a 9. This is so bad, but it gets a 2. Why does it get a 1?
Ones are like reserved for like I have a moral qualm with this movie, and I don't. I don't.
Okay.
But it's really close. It's really close.
It's
pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Well, I would ask you where people could see that movie, but I have a feeling that
it's on Criterion if you really cared. But
you don't want to do that to your good friends.
You don't
out there
care
in the PGN podcast world.
Yeah.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is another thick edition of Jackson's Pretentious Arthouse Corner. and Kong Skull Island. Just to mix things.
Kong
Skull Island. Just
it can't all be bleak. Sometimes you got to throw a little, monkey fighting a dinosaur in there.
They're making more of those Godzilla Kong movies.
Yeah, I don't know why they are. They gotta give up.
The last one was just absolutely wretched.
Did it even do well box office wise?
Did great box office this year.
Wow.
Yep.
Cooked.
Yep. Got
All
greenlit right away. Got more movies to talk about. Also, a reminder that next week, I'll just let you guys know now, we will be back hopefully in 7 days with our reviews of Deadpool and Wolverine. Also opening a little horror movie that's got a little buzz on it called Oddity. We're both going to try to find a way to see that together because we're both too scared to see it by ourselves. And there is here's a shocker. I think it's an A24, or it could be Neon, but a little movie called Dee Dee that's getting some really good buzz out there as well. Coming-of-age student about a young Asian teenager.
And I think we're both going to try to see Sing Sing as well.
And Sing Sing as well, yes, which is also playing right now in limited and has a little bit of Oscar buzz, but I don't know. They release these Oscar buzz movies in the summer and they get eaten alive by the fighting robots, and they got to have legs, or they got to have a really good push in the fall. So we'll see. But speaking of fighting robots and big summer blockbusters, it's here. Did it save the box office this summer? No, that's still Inside Out 2, but this one is putting another little bow on it because it did very well this weekend. And the reviews have been fairly decent as well for the big new, I guess call it a sequel. There's very few references to the first one. But technically it is. It's Twisters. This is from director Lee Isaac Chung, who directed one of my favorite movies from a few years ago, Minari, which you would not think his next movie would.
Which I've actually never seen, but I've heard is pretty great.
It's really great. It's kind of like when Chloe, who's the woman who did Nomadland, Chloe Zhang or Chloe.
I think it's Chloe Zhang. Like
she directed that and then went on to do the big Eternals movie for Marvel. Yeah. So I guess you do one little art house movie, and the next thing they throw you into a summer blockbuster. Yeah. It stars the man of the moment, Glen Powell, who, Glenn, take it from me. Don't do everything, or we're going to get real sick of you real quick, okay? We understand you're the next McConaughey or Cruise, but pick your projects wisely. You don't have to do everything. He's from Top Gun Maverick and the sleeper hit Hitman on Netflix. And it also stars Daisy Edgar Jones from Where the Crawdads Sing. I actually liked her in this. Actually, to be honest with you, I like both of them in it. This is the kind of movie you want to see pretty people doing lines and delivering them well. There's a lot of exposition here.
I agree with you halfway.
Halfway. We'll see what happens with that. There is a lot of exposition in this movie. Let's be very clear. This movie is not rocket science, and I'm pretty sure, Jackson, it's really not even tornado science, because none of it really made much sense to me. But like the first one, it is mindless fun, and I think your enjoyment of the movie was probably going to depend on what mood you were in when you entered and what your expectations were. I think if you go in with low expectations, you might be pleasantly surprised. If you're expecting the next big thing, you might be in for a little bit of a letdown. It's somewhat disposable, but also fun. I have a few other thoughts, but in the meantime, Jackson, what did you think about Twisters?
My biggest takeaway from Twisters is that it confirmed a suspicion of mine, which is that Glen Powell has the stuff. Like, Glen Powell has the stuff. I'm on Glen Powell train officially now.
You're on Team Glen? You're on Team Glen?
I'm on Team Glen. He's so likable, and I'm just like, man, I just want you to do well. I just want you to do well.
You want to go out and get a beer with him.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah,
you really do.
Hey, will you be my friend? Because you seem like you're fun.
Yeah, I really do think that he's like one weird role away from solidifying himself as like a powerhouse superstar. Because I would like to see a little more range out of him. I feel like he kind of falls back on a kind of like douchebag, smart ass character a lot. But in due time, Glenn, we have a lot of time with you left, so I'm not going to complain too much. I don't know if Daisy Edgar Jones blew me away in this movie, which apparently is a very hot take because everyone that I've talked to about this seems to disagree.
Well, I don't think she didn't blow me away.
Casting on this.
She didn't blow me away or anything. I just thought she had to say an awful lot about tornado science, and I thought she did it plausibly. I wasn't like cringing during her stuff, but
I thought she was fine. I didn't love it. And another big thing is that here's the thing. I think that the opening sequence of this film was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, my God. Was really good. And I'll tell you why. It's because the opening sequence of this movie takes the Jaws approach. Because you don't see the twisters. You just kind of are...
Yeah.
I mean, you do a little bit, but for the most part, you're with the characters.
Yeah.
And it's really scary because you're there and they're under this what do you call it? Like
freeway underpass.
Underpass. Or overpass, and they're under it, and they're huddling, and you're hearing what's going on, but you're not seeing it, and it's scary because you're with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do that for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
This movie is a lot of tornado chasing, and I think that it could have been one tornado chase less, because after a while it gets a little repetitive, where it's like, all right, we're going into the tornado, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so scared of the tornado. And it's like, man, we made it out of the tornado.
There are a lot of drone shots of trucks rushing towards tornadoes.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna kind of disagree with you, because I felt like every time the movie started to lag just a little bit, I was like, is there gonna be another storm? I thought it was there was a few moments where I'm like, how long are they going to talk about the tornado? Just get to a tornado already. And I thought they did a pretty good job at editing and getting us back into the storm.
I think it was paced well. I think there was just one tornado chase too many. Where I was like, you could have cut that. I also think that it was really difficult for me because I wasn't really understanding the scope of the tornadoes, where sometimes I would see a tornado and I'd be like, damn, that's a really big tornado, and they're really close to it. And then they would like get out of the car, and I'm like, oh wait, so they're not in the tornado? And then they're in the tornado, and I'm like, oh right, so now they're in the tornado. And then they get out of the car again, and I'm like, okay, they're not in the tornado yet. So like, how dangerous is this?
They're surrounding the tornado.
And every time it's like, man, this is a big one, and I'm like, yeah, this is a big one. And then it doesn't really do much, or sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a smaller tornado, so it's not going to be as bad. And then it's like devastating, and I'm like, what is going on with the tornado? Like where?
There's very many different categories and styles of tornadoes.
There are many different styles of tornadoes in this film. So don't, if you were a big tornado fan, don't worry, you will be represented in this film.
Yeah. I thought
I had a
okay time with it.
I was gonna say,
what do you think about the effects, the special effects? I thought they were fine. I don't think they were groundbreaking in any way, but
yeah,
I didn't think anything was too cheesy, or at some point was I like, this just
I
so
agree.
fake.
I think that I just wished it was. I think I just wished it was more of what the opening was, which was a little more character centered, and a little less spectacle.
You know what I kind of actually like too is I like that they didn't cram a romance down our throats. I mean, there's obviously chemistry between the two of them, and obviously they'll probably go on. But I have
a fun fact about this.
They never kissed in the movie. They never.
I have a fun fact about this.
Oh, did somebody hate the other person?
No, they were supposed to kiss each other. In fact, they fully shot a scene at the end in the airport where they fully had a kiss. And who do you think stepped in and went, "We should cut that. It's too cliche."
Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg.
Yep. Good for him.
He went, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Yeah. And they did.
I thought that was a really smart move, you know. I love the callback to the line, you know, if you feel it, chase it. I thought that was kind of smart. Her way of saying, you know where to find me if you feel like this is something you want to pursue.
Yeah.
I had fun with it. I think I went in with the right attitude. I was always a fan of the first one, and I will tell you the first one's stupid. And I will tell you that this one, pretty dumb. But I had fun with it as well. I'm going to very lightly recommend. I'm going to put it right there with a B-. So, for what it is.
I liked it a little bit less than you, and I'm going to go with a down the middle 5.
I think it deserves a 6.
I knew you were going to say that.
Can I talk? They didn't kiss. Can I talk you into a 6? No. All right.
No, I don't think so.
Well, you know what that means. Second viewing, Jackson. 70 millimeter print.
Oh yeah. You know, everyone's been talking up that they're like, you have to. Apparently, they really, really, really are trying to push the 4DX thing for this movie. Where it's like they actually, like, usually they just kind of put it like the moving seats in and call it a day, but apparently the director worked really hard to make this a 4DX accessible movie. And apparently it's insane if you see it like that.
Really?
I probably wouldn't, because I think I get really motion sick.
Yeah,
but
I don't need my...
If you have a 4DX theater near you, I guess it's worth it.
Do they still have 4DX theaters? They still have those?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where there is one in LA.
I don't know either, actually. I've never been to one in my life, but I saw a video of a screening, and those seats were moving.
Oh, really?
It was like being in like the Simpsons ride, kind of.
You know what I would like to see in 4DX? Sing Sing.
Sing Sing.
I think Sing Sing would be really
the turn
good.
horse. You think that would work?
Yeah,
in
turn
4DX?
horse. A mother and her father and a daughter eating potatoes. That would be great. Great.
Dude, they eat
4DX.
so many potatoes, and he loves it. He's oh my god, I couldn't. Oh my god, we gotta stop talking about this. That movie was so frustrating.
All right. Still coming up here, just a moment away. Did Jackson love it as much as I love it, and vice versa? But before we do, I got two quick films I want to talk about. The first one I saw an early screening of last night at AMC's Screen Unseen. It is a new movie opening August 2nd from director Rich Pepiot. Now, Jackson, I have never heard of these guys. This is a Irish hip hop group named Kneecap. They are a real band, and the three members play themselves in this movie, Kneecap. It is Bap, DJ Provel, and Mochara. They all play themselves. Michael Fassbender is in this as well. He's the only name you're going to recognize. This was not necessarily my cup of tea all around. I'm not a huge fan of the music, but I thought this was a kinetic, wild, silly, sometimes funny, many times way over the top, and believe it or not, even a sweet and poignant story at some point. I am going to highly, highly recommend this movie to Jackson. I don't know if this is a movie for everybody. This is a film that I think my son is going to enjoy, even if he doesn't completely think it's a perfect project. These guys, this very much reminds me, this is like It's a Hard Day's Night if it met Train Spotting. It is completely bonkers. This is a fictionalized tale of how the band came to be. I'm sure much of this is way overblown. There is use of animation. There is use of claymation in this. There is a lot of drug use. There is a lot of hip-hop music. There's a lot of sex. It is a very vulgar but sweet film, if that even makes sense. The three leads are fine. Don't get me wrong, Michael Fassbender is in this, but it is in a supporting role, so he comes and goes here and there. But I know this sounds weird. I'm not going to recommend this movie to anybody over 40, but I think there is a big audience for this underneath. It's a very interesting tale in how Ireland has been fighting to keep Irish, or as many people call it Gaelic, but they call it Irish, as the national language, since it is disappearing over there. And then whether or not doing it through hip-hop music that is both vulgar and speaks of drug use and sex, if that's the best way to help keep the language. So there's actually some pretty interesting themes under there. Kneecap gets a B- for me. I respect it for what it is. Not completely for me. Jackson, this is a must-see for you. Must-see for you.
You had me at sex, drugs, and hip-hop. I'm in.
Yeah. I'll be very curious. I think I would be very surprised if you don't walk out going, even if you didn't love it, you go, I'm very excited to see what this guy does next. The last movie I'm going to talk about, I saw just about an hour ago. I walked out. So far this year, if someone held a gun to my head and said, what has been the best film of 2024? To this point in time, it has been the movie Challengers. Absolutely loved that film with Zendaya and Mike Fast, and I apologize to the other gentleman. Just a fantastic movie from Luca.
Oh, shoot, I should know this.
I know.
Crap.
Well, you can look it up, young Jamie. I just saw a movie from director Luke Gifford called National Anthem, and this may be my favorite film of the year.
Wow.
So far.
No way. Okay.
This was an incredibly beautifully shot, sweet, poignant story that resonated with me from the first 5 minutes it started. And what's interesting and what I find fascinating about the fact that it resonated with me so much is this is a love story almost a love triangle that takes place between a community that I am not deeply immersed in, the LGBTQ community. It takes place, starts with a young man played by Charlie Plummer who lives with his mother and his young brother. He's forced to do construction work in Texas, find odd jobs. His mother is an alcoholic. Their father has long been out of the picture, and he plays pretty much a father figure to his young brother, while his mother brings over strangers on a nightly basis. He, by chance, ends up as a hired hand at a ranch nearby that has become somewhat of a commune for LGBTQ members that have been disenfranchised or disowned by their families. Yeah. And they've found this community that they live in, and he is immediately enamored by a young trans woman named Sky, played by Eve Lindley, who was fantastic in this. I don't want to tell you where the story goes from there. I thought it was possibly, and I'm so glad it didn't, was going to go to the world of, how does this community live in Texas? And when were the racists and the homophobic cowboys going to show up? And when was there going to be the scene when the ranch got burned down or they got run out? None of that happens. This is just an immensely powerful love story and a story of a young man who finding where he not only belongs, but also how he feels as an individual and where he fits in to the world. National Anthem. I don't know if it's going to get any kind of publicity. It's been in theaters for like a week. But it is easily going to be on my top 10 list of one of the best films of the year.
Wow. I'll get tickets. I had not heard of this movie until you said you were going to go see it.
It is
and I did
so
read,
good.
I did read the log line and all that, and it sounds interesting. But I wish they'd done more promo for this. I think it's playing near me, so hopefully I'll be able to catch it this week and talk to you about it next week. But
I absolutely loved it. I think Charlie Plummer gives a really I love understated performances. This never becomes theatrical. Robin Lively plays his mother, who a lot of people, she's Blake Lively's, I believe, older half-sister. She was an actress back in the 80s, and I haven't seen her in a long time. She's fantastic as the mom. The entire supporting cast, I think, is really strong. It really hit me. It's a small movie, and sometimes that's what you need during a summer of blockbusters. National Anthem for me gets an A-. It's a great film.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I'm excited to see it.
I would love to hear what you think of it. If for some reason you can't see it in theaters, I would definitely buy it on streaming as soon as you can.
Sure.
I think it's one of those gems that either for the subject matter or the publicity is going to fall under. All right, before we say goodbye to you here at the PGN podcast, a reminder, we will be back again next week, Two Generations Talking Movies. And we're also going to come back next week with some trivia. It's time. We haven't done this in a while, so Jackson and I are going to challenge each other to trivia, and I'm going to make it even tougher. Jackson, I need you to come at me next week with five good trivia questions having to do with summer blockbusters. I'm going to leave that wide open to you. It could be about movies that were summer blockbusters. It could be about box office during summer blockbusters. It could be about movies that flopped during the summer that were supposed to. Anything you want. 5 trivia questions from the beginning of time about summer blockbuster movies. And we'll throw down the gauntlet one more time and see if we can take out the other. I believe the score is me 27, you 1. Last time we played trivia.
That's not it.
I might be slightly off. I might be slightly off.
That can't be right.
But one of our favorite games we announced last week, it came back. It is Please Love It As Much As I Do. We're going to start with, why don't we start with me? I gave Jackson a movie that I remember absolutely loving from the 90s, in a time when thriller noirs were a dime a dozen. Everyone was making these, and only a few of them would really resonate with me. Otherwise, they were kind of paint by the numbers, like who the murderer is or someone's grifting who. But John Dahl is one of the the best writer-directors of that generation to do movies. Other films include The Last Seduction, which was another one of his great ones. But I also remember this was a really good performance by Nicolas Cage, someone we've already talked about. And say what you will about Nicolas Cage, he brings something different to whatever genre he does. The movie I picked for Jackson is called Red Rock West. It also starred Laura Flynn Boyle and Dennis Hopper and the late great, and I always blank on his name, J.T. Walsh, character actor. This is a movie with twists and turns, as any true noir should. I remember the movie looking absolutely beautifully shot. Lots of purples and light blues and all that. And more than anything, I remember that Nick Cage, we were just starting to see the bold choices that he would go on to make in his career. It is one of my favorite films from that era and that genre, Jackson. I think it's one of those little-known sleepers. Did you love it as much as I did?
Yeah, it's certainly more Raising Arizona Nick Cage than it is Longlegs Nick Cage.
Yes,
because he's got that accent, he's got that southern accent going on. He's just a boy from Texas looking for some work in a small town.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I just had something to say and I totally forgot what it was. Oh, so it's funny that you mentioned how beautiful it looks, because does not affect my score at all, but I want to preface with this. This movie was only available to watch on Vimeo for free. Yeah. And but either that or I had to buy it for like $30 on Amazon. And here's the problem: is that when you watch it on Vimeo, it is a VHS rip of a TV screening of it.
Oh,
and so,
is it? I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay because it wasn't the quality wasn't horrible, but the thing is that it's cropped. The sides are cropped in for TV.
Oh no!
So there was a little bit of missing information on the sides of the screen, which just sucks because I wasn't missing anything probably besides just extra detail. But it did just suck not getting to watch it in its full colorful glory. I could tell there were some really brilliant shots and composition. Yeah. But it was a little bit difficult to tell.
Next time we do this challenge, I'm going to have to make sure that I know it's available in some form.
It really is okay though, because it didn't really affect my viewing of it. I fully agree. Nick Cage is great in this. Dennis Hopper is great in this. I thought Laura Flynn Boyle was pretty decent. J.T. Walsh was the star of this movie for me.
Yeah,
he was so good.
He's so good.
There's a standoff at the end between him and Dennis Hopper. And J.T. Walsh has a gun pointed on Dennis Hopper, and he's trying to get Dennis Hopper to give him the car keys. And Dennis Hopper just keeps walking forward, and he's like, stop walking, and Dennis Hopper keeps forgetting that he's being told that, so he'll just take a step forward, and then finally he's like, God damn it, I told you to stop walking forward. This movie is over the top and so over the top, and very over the top and very absurd, but in a very stylized and unique way. It's funny because the three leads from this, obviously Dennis Hopper, Nick Cage, and Laura Flynn Boyle, were all leading characters in David Lynch movies, which I think is very interesting because I did see a bit of Lynch here. A lot of Twin Peaks vibes, especially because of the whole mystery aspect, and a lot of the line delivery I felt very Lynch, very Blue Velvet. And Dennis Hopper does play a very similar character here to his character in Blue Velvet, although more toned down. But I think that what really makes this movie work is that it's such a unique blending of genres, because it is a noir thriller, but it's also a Western, and it's also kind of a 90s hangout movie at times. It kind of leans into that 90s aesthetic. So it's got this very interesting melding of genres. And I also think that it has good fun, but it's not afraid to play against what is expected of it, where you kind of expect it to have a storybook ending. It doesn't necessarily have that. You kind of leave your character off pretty much how you found him. I mean, he starts as a normal guy who enters a town that he shouldn't have, and he kind of leaves the town being a guy who's looking for work. And there was this hilarious bit that they do because he's kind of just trying to get away from this town. He's wrapped up in this murder plot that he doesn't really understand. And they have this bit where anytime he leaves or exits the town, they'll do a shot where it's like the car driving down the road, and then you see okay, you're now leaving Red Rock, or the other way around where it's like you're now entering. And it happens maybe 10 times. And it just made me laugh because it's like, oh my God, he's back in Red Rock again. Yeah. It just always ends back up in Red Rock.
There's a lot of there's silly elements to it. It's the the mistaken identity. It's not we've seen it before in films where it's someone takes someone for someone else, and then the real person shows up and they're like, who is who? And I don't know.
But it is ridiculous. But they don't make him stupid. Like it's because a lot of times with mistaken identity things, it's like, okay, can you just sit down for 2 seconds and explain what's going on to the people around you? Like if you just explain to them. But he does that. He even he writes a letter to the police explaining exactly what is happening. Like he's a really smart character, and so it makes it more fun to watch.
Yeah. Again, I think I came into this particular challenge this time. I was like, I've thrown classics at you. I've thrown movies that are on top 100 lists that I know you haven't seen, but this is one that I just popped to me. I think because I knew we were doing Longlegs and we were talking a lot about Nick Cage, that I thought it'd be curious to see another Nicolas Cage performance, especially something from early on. Like I thought about it, maybe even throwing you Birdie, or the one where he does Elvis with Laura Dern, the David Lynch Wild at Heart. I thought about throwing one of those at you, but I said no. There's this little film that I remember resonating, going, this was a really bonkers, kind of crazy, over the top noir. So I remember loving it. Jackson, how did you feel about it?
I'm between a 7 or an 8 on this one. I'm leaning towards an 8 though. Yeah, so okay. I did enjoy this. It was a lot of fun. And I would watch again, preferably not with the VHS rip. It really is okay. I felt bad for the people for the movie. I was just like, oh man,
I can't believe there's no. I looked to see it too. I was like,
it's so strange. Sometimes movies like that just get lost in royalty weird limbo where different streaming services have it, but not the streaming rights and so. Right. So.
Well, I can live with the 7 and 8, and I'm glad you at the very least you had fun with it, because I meant it to be more of a fun movie than a
And it definitely was.
Yeah. And Jackson, what did you throw my way?
Not really the similar vibe here. No. I was very I had been thinking about giving you this one for a while, and I really wanted to now because I've been thinking about it a lot, and this is I think less of like I want you to love this as much as I do, more as like I'm thinking about this a lot and I want to know what you think about it, because this movie is grappling with a lot of really interesting ideas. So I gave you Camera Buff this week, and it is a one of the first narrative films by the Polish director Krzysztof Kieslowski, who's most known for the Three Colors trilogy. Which I think was a fairly decent hit, at least in the Arthouse scene.
Have you seen, not to interrupt, but have you seen Red, White, or Blue? Any of those?
I've actually only seen Camera Buff. It's the only movie of his that I've seen. Okay. So I'm missing on it quite a lot. But I think that to contextualize this movie, but before he made this film, he was a documentarian. And so I think it's very interesting because this movie is about a Polish guy who lives in a very small village, who is the first person in his town to own a film camera. He owns it. He purchases an 8mm film camera, and his workplace starts hiring him to shoot kind of the earliest ideas of what a short film is. Of just like, let's get some videos of the workers working, and we'll throw it around to some festivals. And it's like, it's kind of like early silent films where it's like people leaving the factory and things like that. And it's interesting because there's a lot of things to think about this movie, where it's dealing with how obsessive you can come with filmmaking or documenting your own life, how that can become an obsessive to the point of breaking your family apart. But it also has a lot to do with what is okay to film and what isn't. The power of film and the good and the bad. There's a brilliant sequence where he happens to videotape someone's mother, and when they pass away, he's able to gift this man a video of his mother, and he's so blown away that he has this memory to remember her by. But there's also some moments where he's kind of using the power of film for bad, where he's staging accidents with his child to put on video, and many things like that. I think this movie has one of the best endings I have ever seen in a film. It completely blew me away. Just something about it really got to me, and I think that this movie kind of filled the hole that Fabelmans left in me, where I think that they were kind of there's a scene from the Fabelmans that I think about a lot, where the kid's family is in a fight, and he looks into a mirror and he can see himself framing up the shot of them fighting. And Camera Buff does something very similar, but kind of, I think, to a more full extent, where his wife ends up leaving him because he's become so obsessive with this hobby of videotaping, and as she's leaving, he's caught framing her up, and he does that many times throughout the film. So, Camera Buff, I think, is just, as a cinematographer, I think it holds a special place in my heart. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I want to know what you think.
Okay, well, this is a very good film. As far as the creative process, and I can tell what people put into it. It did not resonate with me a lot, but I almost watched it through your eyes, knowing you had recommended it, and I can see there are certain things about it that you would appreciate. As a performer, you know that I have problems. If the acting is not at the level that I like, then that always is something that takes me out of it a bit.
You didn't like Philip?
I did not. I did not care. And I don't know, and I'll tell you why, because I don't really know if I always got completely his point of view, and I don't know if I went down the rabbit hole of his obsession with that, because I could see bits of him becoming more obsessed with film and how it took a front seat to his relationship and his child. But then he also had a mistress, and then I was like, okay, is he into her? Or is he into... Because there were certain parts of the movie where it's like he was more interested in when he was going to see the mistress again. And now, don't get me wrong, I do get that the mistress was a film producer of some sort that was able to open doors for him.
Head or something. Yeah.
So I guess in retrospect, I could kind of go, well, maybe his obsession with her was more about opening doors. I guess the fact that it wasn't... I could see where he wanted to make artistic films, but I was like, and I guess he had to do them under the pretense of doing them for the Labor Party, the Communist Party.
Sure.
And at this point in time in history in that part of the country, everything had to be authorized, and, the government had to approve it, and it had to be portray the communist system of manufacturing in a certain light. I don't know if they really covered that completely. It seemed kind of crammed in at the very end, like when the guy shows up and goes, you've done this movie about a man who's disabled and showed him as a real person and how we treat him. And it seemed like a very quick switch to me. But there's a lot in this movie. It's shot really, really well. I mean, with obviously an incredibly limited budget. They made a lot of interesting choices, especially the stuff that he shoots that we see through his perspective, from whether it's the windows. He shoots a lot like the street workers. And it was very neat to see kind of the behind the scenes of how he wanted to film the guy driving up in the truck from our perspective of how he wanted to see the guy driving up in the truck, if that makes sense. I wanted to like it more. I did.
I know. Yeah.
For me, what it is that I would have liked to have seen him go down the rabbit hole a little bit more, and I don't know if I completely bought into how important it was to him. And then the switch at the very end, where he realizes with the last scene, which is pretty much a 2-camera monologue about, you can see his despair and almost repeating the mistakes he made and where his life went wrong because of the choice, saying it as though he was shooting it, like we fade in on, I can't remember the word, we fade in on a man who's pretty much, he's talking about what's happening, but pretty much he goes, here's how I would shoot the story of a man who made all the wrong choices. And he
starts describing the beginning of the film, like where we open up on him buying the camera, but he's saying it in script format, basically.
Right, but the undertone of it, I definitely got, is that I'm now telling you the story of how I ended up in this sad place, and this is how I would shoot the story. So instead of just saying he can't even just say how he feels or how much in despair he's at. He's got to say how the story should be shot of telling you how I got here. And I got all that, and I thought it's a beautiful choice.
And the part about that scene that really gets me, though, and what really always resonates with me the most, is that he's saying this monologue, but he's filming it. Like he has his 16 millimeter camera, and he turns it on himself, and then he starts talking.
Yeah.
And there's something so interesting about that, because I think that, again, this movie, I think I saw it right the exact right point, because I will do a thing sometimes if I'm ever in a situation where I'm feeling overwhelmed, where to calm myself down, I'll go, all right, if I had to shoot this moment right now, how would I do it? Like I do this all the time. And so when he's in these extreme situations and he starts framing up, it's like I can see myself in that. And then in the ending, when he flips the camera around, it's this ultimate moment of like, we just don't do that. Like, we just don't do that. Like I hate when people take pictures of me, because I always overanalyze. Where I'm like, what do I do? This isn't what I do. I'm behind the camera. This is so strange. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of myself in Philippe, and I think that it is a reminder of the power of film, and really the power of a camera and documenting, which I think is again a lot more to do with my job than it is yours. But we're in a day and age when we all have cameras. We're all documenting. So I think it's a lot to think about too. I liked her. I thought she was good.
I understand why this is an important film to you. I think it is a good film. I'm going to say it's a slightly above average film, but only slightly. I'm going to give Camera Buff a C+.
Oh, not a B-?
C+.
I think you meant B-.
It's a bit long.
All right, I'll clock you in. It's all good. I'll clock you in for B-. It's all good.
Okay.
Let's mark that down. Can we mark that down for a B-?
When we see the 700 millimeter, the 70 millimeter screening of it, that's when we'll know. It's the PGN podcast. I'm Regan Burns. This is my son Jackson. I'm going to give a really strong recommendation, especially for your action fans, to go see the Kill movie from India if you haven't yet. We both agree that Longlegs is a very good film with a very flawed ending. But I think both of us would say it's certainly something worth seeing as well. Twisters, it was a little more enthusiasm in my corner for that one. I don't think either one of us think it's Summer Dreck, but I thought it was a little bit more mindless escapism than Jackson did, but he certainly didn't turn his nose up to it. Kneecap is a movie that I highly recommend for his generation. Listen to me. You've been warned. I don't think the over 40s are going to dig it, but I'm very excited to see what Jackson thinks about it. We both agree that Vertigo is kind of mid Alfred Hitchcock. We're not quite sure why it's revered as much as it is, but that's the period piece it is.
Master of suspense.
And I may or may not have seen. I highly recommend. I think one of the best films of the year, if not the best, we'll have to wait and see. There's a long way to go. National Anthem. So
I think
there you
the
have
biggest takeaway from me from this episode is do not ever watch The Turn Horse. You will waste your time.
The Turn Horse is not. And
for all you folks at home who are waiting to watch The Turn Horse.
Yeah. Oh, and if you're in Hollywood, Jackson has a new favorite classic film, Lawrence of Arabia. So
worth seeing.
If you can see that on the big screen at the Egyptian or one of the other.
Incredibly brave movie, an incredibly brave ending. Here I go again. See it just for the match cut.
All right. We are going to fight the crowds next week and find a seat at Deadpool and Wolverine. Going to see some of the small ones sneak into Oddity and be back with our summer blockbuster trivia as well. Jackson, anything else for the folks?
That's all I got.
That's it, baby. We love you. Thanks for listening. Follow us on all the social media, and make sure to like and subscribe to the PGN Podcast YouTube channel. Put your comments. Is there a movie that we haven't seen that we need to? A classic? We may or may not. It's in discussions. We may be coming back to you with recommendations of some of the best and worst films of all time. But we're so scarred from Ghost Dad.
You guys really screwed the pooch, man.
You scarred us so bad.
I guess they did what we asked, but Jesus,
that's true.
That was so hard to watch.
But we have been in negotiations and discussions, so maybe that door will get opened again. But it's going to take a lot of prying. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. Love ya, buddy. See you next time.
Love you too. Bye.